What's happened with when you this is a quake of silence in front of the meeting, and when we get inspired, we stand up and proclaim. But we haven't got long. It's only a matter of seconds before we actually start. And Tom's going to say, well, you have got the live stream already going, so people will be listening to this. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of West Craven Area Committee. This is a working committee of Pendle Council, and we do have some rules to follow. So, speakers, there's a limit on how long you can contribute and things like that. I don't think we've got any speakers on any of the planning items, which the rule's about, but otherwise, this set of councillors here and myself, the Pendle Borough councillors, this set of councillors on my right, representatives from parish and town councils, they can participate in the discussion, they can move things and second things, but you can't vote, and that's because of the rules of local government. I'm going to ask people to introduce themselves, which doesn't include the audience, I'm sorry, but those of people who are speaking in a bit, they can pipe up and say who they are when we get to that bit. So, my name's David Whip, I'm a councillor for Eby and Coates Ward, and if we do it as a bit of a sound check, if you can't actually hear people, if you sort of indicate or shout or something like that, and we'll get people to project more. If I go to my left.
Thank you. Good evening, David Walker, Assistant Director of Operational Services and Area Coordinator for the West Craven Committee.
Good evening, Neil Watson, Planning Officer.
Evening, Chris Church, Member for Barnoldswick.
Good evening, Susan Land. I'm a Borough Councillor for Eby and Coates.
Good evening, Councillor Tom Whip for Barnoldswick Ward.
Coming over to Amanda.
Hi, Amanda Inman for Eby Town Council.
Angela Mayers for Calbrook and South Parish Council.
Kevin Singleton, Salford Parish.
Joanne Eccles, the Committee Administrator at Pendle Council.
Right, can I just sound check? Was everybody okay, or do you want us to pipe up? Right, well, you can come and sit a little bit further forward as well, you know.
The chairs aren't bolted down.
Right, now we've mass destruction, a movement of humanity. There we go. We should have panned the camera around, really. We've just got some procedural items to deal with. So the first item is declaration of interest, and this is where councillors who've got a prejudicial pecuniary interest in an issue have to declare it, leave the room, and take no part in the discussion. Can I check? Are there any prejudicial pecuniary interests? Nope. Okay. Item 2 is public question time. This is an opportunity for people to raise any issues that affect West Craven that aren't otherwise on the agenda. Are there any public question time questions? Nope. Item 3 are the minutes of the last meeting. Could I ask if somebody would move those as a correct record, please? Moved and seconded over here. All in favour, please show. Thank you. Item 4 is police and community safety issues, and we do have apologies from the police. The sergeant can't make it. Our local policing officer is seconded to response policing for 3 months, and Neil Wallin, who's our PCSO, is on a rest day. The police have provided some figures showing the number of crimes in the area. I'm not sure that any one of us can answer any questions, but we are open to discuss them. And there was something to read out, wasn't there, from the sergeant? Yeah. Okay. So, can I ask one of you gentlemen to read that out? Thank you, David.
Dear Councillors from Court T, attached to the crime statistics for February, the police send their apologies for the meeting but have provided the following information. At the last meeting, business burglaries were discussed. A suspect has been identified from forensics and will be arrested in the coming days. This should account for up to 4 of these offences. PC Gareth Ingham has been doing some extensive work this month around one of their high-intensity users in the area. This person has contacted the police over 82 times since the start of November. PC Ingham has collated a comprehensive file of evidence with the subject being arrested and bailed pending forensic, etc. There is a slight increase in residential burglaries. These are not connected to the previously mentioned burglaries, with no patterns identified. The burglary team and the neighbourhood policing team are conducting ongoing inquiries. Overall crime is down and antisocial behaviour crime is down.
Thank you, David. Tom?
Just a query on the figures before us. Theft and theft and arson/criminal damage. So there's increases, but the figures show decreases. Have the columns been mixed up, or is the sign wrong on those?
Okay. I'm not doing the sums. I'm not going to second guess. So I think we'll put that down as a
I
clear.
think it's.
Yeah, I'll get back to them and check.
Yeah.
They came through at the last minute, so they haven't been checked.
I think it's the columns wrong way round because
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a sign that's swapped. So it is an overall decrease, not an increase of 11.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on arson and criminal damage, what the figures are showing is that 2023 there were 19 reported incidents or crimes, and in 2024 that's gone down to 8. So it's minus rather than plus. I'd asterisk it to say, why has it gone up so much?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other questions, comments on the figures? The other aspect of this is community safety issues. I think there have been some concerns about, putting it mildly, disorderly behaviour on Albert Road and on Back Albert Road, and that's something that I've taken up with the sergeant. I don't want to go into any detail, but I think if we make a note, Joanne, and ask that, where possible, they give us a bit of an update at the next meeting, that'd be good. Any further community safety issues? If not, we'll move on. Thank you. Right, we're going to do planning items now. The first one is formation of an enclosed horticultural plot and the erection, I can't say this lot, erection of an adjoining single-storey orangery building at Croftgate Farm. It says Bracewell Lane, but I don't put you on Bracewell Lane. I think your Stock Lane, Bracewell. This is one that we had on the agenda at the last meeting. We weren't happy, content with refusing it. We asked if there could be an amendment that would bring it within policy. Mr Watson, do you want to report what's happened, please?
Chairman, an amended design came in, much better, much more appropriate for the building. Not a great deal more to say than we're happy with the design now.
Okay, are we content to approve it? So it's moved by Chris, seconded by Tom. All in favour, please show. I'm sorry, I know you guys can't vote. All in favour, please show. Thank you very much, that's passed. So you will be getting a notification from Mr Watson that gives the approval. And if I've ever got an hour to spare to go down your track again, I'll come look at it, see whether it looks all right. Yeah. It really is in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the Drumlin field, and it does take you at least sort of, driving steady away 10 minutes to get from the A59. So I think we'll be happy to support that one. The second one isn't in the middle of nowhere. This is a proposed access and driveway to serve existing dwelling at land to the northwest of Letcliffe House, Manchester Road, Barnoldswick, and it's off Letcliffe Lane. Now, some of us did pay a site visit, and I've got some pictures with horses on that people can look at if they want. Mr Watson, do you want to introduce this, please?
Yes, Chairman. Planning permission was granted, I think 2 years ago, for a property on a plot of land with access via an existing track with a stone wall. Adjacent to it is an unkempt piece of land. Historically, it looks like there were buildings on there, but my visit, it was just overgrown, and the applicant wishes to transfer the access into the site from the existing track to providing a new access way, breaking in at the top of the access. Chairman, they will have to surface it at the entrance. Other than that, it's not really going to have any particular impact visually, because obviously it's on the ground. So, Chairman, although it is a conservation area, we are recommending approval.
Thank you, Neil. Can I just clarify, is that the proposed location of the track?
Yeah.
So if people want to have a look at that. Councillor Tomwick?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I mean, the feeling is that this is just a backdoor way to get an access to the land that has the refused permission for the dwellings further back. I mean, if this was passed today, Neil, would this access then be able to be used for said development in the future? Probably know what you're going to say, but
Through you, Chairman. Obviously, if they apply for that, then it could, but I don't think it makes a difference particularly, because the access itself is rather benign in terms of the impact. The impact would be on the houses as opposed to the access track. So, obviously, can't prejudge any future application. I'm not aware there's one coming in, by the way, so don't read anything into my comments. But I think the housing itself is going to be the impact as opposed to any access track.
Okay, question from me, Neil. The access that has been approved is a shared access, which is immediately parallel to the proposed access. So you've got one access, two access. I'm assuming that the planning in principle will go to appeal. If that were approved, there would be a third access all coming out onto Letcliffe Lane, which is the access to the park, a lot of walkers, leisure users going up there. Is there an issue in terms of that complexity of three accesses onto the lane all at one place?
You could have. Obviously, the other one will be for appeal, but one of my thoughts was you have two accesses separated by a wall. And whether that would cause a particular problem. Now, if it was heavily trafficked, yes, I think there would be, you would want to see that. But two properties, the amount of traffic coming out there, part of the reason for cutting the hedge is so that you can see a vehicle there, and the wall's quite low. So normally you wouldn't have two accesses so close, but you might get 3 or 4 vehicles, 5 or 6 vehicles a day. The chances of those having an impact or causing a traffic problem, I don't think is a particular issue for so few vehicle movements, Jim.
Okay, so the highways, LCC highways, are saying prior to the first use of the driveway, the existing wall and hedge shall be reduced in height to below 1 metre for at least 2 metres back from the edge of Letcliffe Lane and maintained for as long as the driveway is in use. So will that give adequate visibility to the right?
John, I think the visibility from the existing access will be less than the visibility from this new one, if that makes sense. So it would actually improve what was existing for this property. But in any event, you always look at the amount of vehicles coming out of there and the speed of traffic, low speeds up there, very few traffic. I don't believe it will be a highway danger.
Any further comments or questions, proposals? Tom?
Chairman, I see no reason why we could refuse this.
Okay.
I think we have to recommend move approval, really.
Okay, right, so that's moved. Is it seconded? Yeah. Okay, so it's moved and seconded that this is approved, subject to the conditions in the report. Any further comments? If not, all those in favour, please show. Thank you very much, that's carried. Just a couple more planning issues for us to deal with. Planning appeals, we've got one to note, which is for the caravan site at Lower Green Hill Farm on Calbrook Road, who have also got a fresh application in for, I think it's 17 more statics and 11 or perhaps more tourers on another part of the site. Can we note that, please? And item 6 is enforcement action. We've got a short list. Wardle Story Office at Earby, committee authorised further prosecution meeting in February. Mr Watson, do we know if that's progressed any?
Chairman, it's progressed, and I went back to the applicant, and as this is a public issue, the applicants, and we're carrying out the instructions to prosecute. The Chairman, the applicants come back to say it really is on a knife edge. It's likely that any enforcement action will lead to insolvency for them, and that wouldn't lead to any progress because it would be a bankruptcy. So it's a difficult one, Chairman, although we are acting on that instruction. Committee may want to take a view on whether what approach is the most prudent one. If they do go into insolvency, it creates obviously more difficulties.
Okay. The reason why committee resolved to recommence enforcement action was because the applicant hadn't progressed with getting the licence from the Environment Agency to put the bridge across the Beck, which wouldn't cost money, any meaningful amount of money. Did the applicant indicate whether they were going to progress that or not?
Chairman, the indication previously was that they were going to do that, but in the last...
Give them 6 months and it
sorry.
didn't happen, did it?
No, sorry, Chairman, I wasn't excusing that. They've come back to say they haven't done that, they haven't progressed that. So, no development on that front.
My suggestion would be give them another month, well, until this next meeting, in order to get the paperwork to the Environment Agency. And I think if we see some effort in order to take the matters forward, we may consider staying enforcement action at that point. I understand the financial knife edge, but when it comes to A, that's it, isn't it?
Chairman, there's no doubt it's been unacceptably slow, and the axis should have been put across there a long time ago. But we saw this a lot around 2009 when we had the crash. We ended up with a lot of sites which just took years to resolve. So it is a difficult one if they're in that financial situation.
Okay.
No easy routes out, I'm afraid.
A committee agreeable? Amanda, any comment from Earby Town Council?
I understand the money issues and that, so yeah, I think giving them a little bit longer, just say is going to act and prosecution it.
Okay. Yeah. Susan?
Yeah, reluctantly I have to agree with Amanda. But I mean, those flats have been occupied for quite a while now. They're obviously taking money in from there. And yet this issue's ongoing.
Yeah. Having met the applicant online when we last agreed to defer enforcement action, his rationale for that position was the increase in interest rates had meant that his borrowings were not covered by the rental income, and the further work that is required to be carried out wasn't covered by that income either. So,
Chairman, if I may, I'll just read, this is the email I got, the last one. I'm sorry to have to respond with rather negative news insofar as matters are so difficult with the funders that they are now becoming increasingly aggressive, and I can foresee a situation whereas there is the distinct possibility that the property could be repossessed. And as a last-ditch attempt to rescue the situation, I've had to resort to offering another commercial property as security to seek to avoid a worst-case scenario unfolding. Then goes on to some details about evaluation for that. So it does seem like they are trying to deal with their portfolio to try and get forward with this.
okay, can we take a vote on deferring enforcement action subject to review at the next meeting and hopefully some progress in terms of the EA consents?
Yes.
Yeah, those in favour please show. Thank you very much. That's carried. Right, I think that brings us to the end of the planning items, so I'm going to bring forward a couple of items that we've got later on the agenda. The first one is Wendy. Wendy, do you want to come and... so this is item 14C, and this is the town bus service and a request for it to serve Dalesview Park and the new bungalow development off Brogden Lane. I appreciate you're not down Brogden Lane.
No, I don't know about that bit.
No, okay. That's the item that we put on the agenda.
Right,
okay.
Right.
Wendy, you've got up to 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, I'm here representing the residents and the Residents Committee of Dalesview Park. I don't know if you all know where it is. It's at the top of Manchester Road in Salterford. It's a large site of almost 100 homes, and most of the residents on there are in the 60s, 70s, 80s. We don't have any public transport, so anybody trying to come down into town has to either get a lift off somebody or drive themselves down, or they have to get a taxi, which is £5 each way, which is expensive for pensioners. You can't walk down. I've tried it 3 different ways and it isn't safe. The road's too narrow and too busy to make it safe to walk down into town, which means we can't really use the local shops as much as we'd like, local businesses, hard to get to the doctors, all that type of thing. It's also difficult to get to a post box because the post box is the other side of the road, and that's awkward as well. So we've got a petition here with over 100 signatures on from residents and also from people in Barnoldswick who have relatives up there who'd like to get up on the bus as well. And we've had a look at the map of the bus route. The bus does at the moment go up to the top of Gillian Lane and then it turns left and goes back down to Barnoldswick. We are about 2 minutes to the right of that if you just carry on up. If it could run up, turn around on our car park and go back down, it wouldn't disrupt the service all that much, we don't think. So it would be appreciated if you could give us some assistance on this.
Thank you very much. Wendy, do you want to pass your petition through to me and then...
Certainly, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Can I just ask committee, do you have any questions for Wendy? No? Okay, so I'll read the petition out, which more or less recaps what you said, but Daleview Park is a residential park, about 120 homes for over 50s. There is no bus service, it's not safe to walk. The only safe way into town is to drive or by taxi. The town bus used to serve the park prior to the COVID lockdown, and as residents we would really appreciate if the service could resume. I'm not sure if that last bit is correct.
Well, that's what I've been told. I've only lived on there for 18 months, but that's what I was told, that there was a bus service used to go there. I think it might have gone up and then down, sort of.
No. I'll fill you in on that. Yeah. Well, can I first of all thank you very much for speaking this evening and receive the petition on behalf of Pendle Council. And I'm not sure about these days if all this is subject to GDPR, and so like we can't put it into the public domain with the addresses and the signatures and all that sort of stuff. But certainly the text of the petition itself, the number of signatures we can do. In terms of the bus service, and I put it on the agenda because Margaret, one of your neighbours, contacted me about the petition, and I said I'll put it on the agenda tonight. The committee previously has asked Pilkington Bus, who operate the town bus service as a commercial operation. It isn't subsidised. Have said the only way that they can add things into the schedule is by taking something else out because it's fully occupied. The service now is a lot smaller, less journeys than it was previously. I think the only way that Pilkington Bus could make it stack up is combining it with a school journey. So the bus comes to Barlick, picks up children, I think, to take to Park School in Combe, and then it comes back to Barlick and does the rounds, and then presumably goes back to Park and brings the kids back to Barlick. I think Mr Pilkington, who owns the business, would be very amenable to extending the service if he can. And the second bit of our agenda item is the new development down Brogden Lane, where again it's for people, I think it's over 55s, and there's been requests from that end as well. So my suggestion would be that we do two things. First thing, seek a meeting with Alan Pilkington to talk about extending the service to both areas. And then the second thing, mentioned it was a commercial service. Lancashire County Council subsidises bus services, and when we set up the town bus back in 1986, it was a subsidised service that Lancashire County Council paid for, and they do subsidised services across the county, so there is the possibility of doing that. Lancashire County Council, according to media reports, are going to get £400 million for sorry, no laughing, it wasn't a joke, no, it's true. No, well, maybe I don't know, it might not be true. The government said it, but they're going to get £400 million for improvements, transport improvements, so maybe we could ask for a few coppers to get a bus up to the top of Manchester Road. The only service that there used to be on Manchester Road, I'm going to say 218, which stopped in probably about 1986, and I remember campaigning to try and keep that. I think I've got the service number wrong. I'm looking at Margaret, she might remember. but the service that ran over the tops, I was campaigning to save it through the county council, and I was going to Preston one day, and I managed to, this is my last crash that I ever had, I managed to run into the front of it on a bad bend.
No.
So, Sarah, you're right, isn't it? Susan?
So, I remember we met that bus as well.
Okay.
We didn't run into it though, but we did have a standoff with it. At a similar time.
Right, sorry, we'll not go back nostalgia. Are there any further comments about the current request for a new bus service to serve the top of Manchester Road? Is supported?
I
Chris?
support it, yeah. You can't help but wonder if this were an application for 100 bricks and mortar new builds, that it would go without even asking. That it will be obvious. The fact that it's not visible from the main road and that it's well, not bricks and mortar, I don't know how you define them, shouldn't really belittle it at all. If this is for older people and that they are stuck out there, then we should do everything possible to support it.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah,
Kevin?
just to agree with Chris, we are isolated. We've got an age where we do need transport, public transport to go with them. Like they say, it's absolutely lethal, the road. Even in a car it's lethal, never mind walking. So from Salford Parish Council's point of view, we fully support that.
Thank you. There is actually a letter attached to the petition from Salford Parish Council supporting this.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Sorry, I have not seen that. Okay, Wendy, can I thank you very much?
Thank you.
Can I go to Susan?
Yeah, I was going to say that I support it, and I can't understand why something's not being done like when they were actually built. But the only question I would have is there plenty of room for the bus to turn round?
Yes, we've got quite a decent sized car park,
Right,
so
I'm not being up there,
the tiny
so-
bus definitely could turn around on there. No problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason why they wanted a bus service back in early 1980s was that the planning consent was for touring caravans,
Right.
and they've only migrated to become residential over the years. So, you know, it was envisaged that we'd have caravans getting towed up and down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm pleased to see that Kevin here, who walks up and down Saltforth Drag 3 times in a day, at least, most days, thinks it's too dangerous to walk on those roads. But anyway, there you go. Right.
Thank you.
Wendy, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
He has a yellow jacket now. I'm not saying I nearly walked into him.
Thank you.
It's smaller than a bus though. Thank you. You're very welcome to stop for the rest of the meeting. The next person I have got is Alan Roberts, and this is item 14B, and it's to consider Barnoldswick Local History Society archive room. Alan, do you want to come and take the hot seat, please?
Yeah.
Not quite the mastermind, we haven't got the line.
That'd be more intimidating, I don't know. Anyway, hope not. Do you want me to start?
Please.
Okay, right, so good evening everyone. Hope you can all hear me and people at the sides as well. So I was asked to be the archivist for Barnoldswick History Society in May last year, and the first archivist, I should say. And I should say that the archive used to be held in Barnoldswick Library until about 7 or 8 years ago. The library decided they wanted to, there was a local studies room, and the library decided they wanted to use it for other purposes. So at short notice, the society was asked to vacate the premises and find somewhere else to put their really quite valuable archive material. And it's been in temporary storage ever since, and the conditions are less than ideal. So there's evidence of damp on the walls. There's a heating pipe which might leak, and the temperature at the moment is probably fairly similar to outside. So the lowest temperature is just above freezing point, or has been. The highest temperature in summer was 31 degrees centigrade. The building itself is secure, but the actual room where the archive material is kept, there's no lock on it at all. So we've got a collection of postcards, artefacts, documents, some audio visual materials, and we've got a team of people who, when conditions allow, are trying to catalogue and sort out the archive material. We've looked at 800 items so far. That's just scratching the surface. The oldest item is probably from about 1780, so that's to do with Billy Cock Bracewell's family. The most recent item is an article from the Craven Herald, which appeared on Valentine's Day, which was a look at love and friendship through time, and that featured items from our own archive there. So it's great that people like myself can write articles based on the archive, but we want to extend the archive so it's accessible to the people of Barnoldswick. The people of Barnoldswick should be able to find out more about their history. It should also be open to people from outside Barnoldswick, of course. So this short section here was really to ask the committee for help, for ideas, to put the archive on a more stable footing, so it's going to be a benefit for, I suppose, generations to come. Okay.
Thank you, Alan. Any questions for Alan? Tom?
Thanks, Chair. My understanding is archive rooms are quite a specialist room, quite expensive to set up, like fire protection, air control, conditioning, etc. Is that accurate? And if so, I mean, I'm surprised the library would think to, change a room set up like that to something less specialist, really.
So it was before my time that all this happened, so I've been trying to piece together the story. And I have a document from the National Archives in London, which is my Bible, really, which is it's a guide to looking after archives for non-archivists. And the things you mentioned about temperature control, security, looking out for pests, vermin, that kind of thing, making sure that the building and the room is secure, all that's included. So it's much less than ideal the circumstances it's kept in. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. So going on to deliberate on this, my first reaction when Alan got me to visit the current provision was, well, why can't the library have it? And I've made some discreet inquiries, and it doesn't appear that in the 7 or 8 years since the Local History Society were, I think evicted is probably a too strong word, but maybe not, were evicted from Lancashire County Council's facility next door. It doesn't appear that room has been used for the new intended purpose. I also know that the library are asking to set up a friends group, and one of the things in the friends group is they want community groups to take part. So I think our first port of call is to ask Lancashire County Council if they would welcome the Local History Society back into the local studies room at the library, which was put there, and I was involved with getting the library built, and it was actually put there in order to accommodate the History Society and the artefacts, the documents that they held. So I was desperately disappointed that that was lost. And I know in Earby, the Earby History Society, and Kevin's involved with that, have the use of a room at New Road Community Centre, which is, of course, another county council building. So I can't see why they can't be back in the library and not warm and toasty, but at least stable conditions, if not meeting the other requirements of an archive room.
Yes.
Yeah, Kevin?
Is that what you have in mind, to go back to there?
Anything?
I'm not quite sure. I mean, it sounds very, very promising. So it was, I mean, I don't know the reasons why we were asked to leave the library in the first place. I know it had been told, but I wasn't there at the time. But I mean, if it's an offer of a place which is secure, a place which is warm, a place where people can actually sit down and look at documents in comfort, I mean, that sounds ideal, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's not in our gift.
Yeah.
You know, we can ask the county council and might turn around and say no. But my second suggestion, Kevin, was could we share with the Eardies? And I know the archive room is jammed.
We have to go through then.
Never the train shall meet.
Real treasures of these history societies. And I think where it come around, there seems to be somebody who ran the libraries, who's no longer there, who had this policy where they were slash and burn. They weren't bothered what got affected as long as they were saving money. And unfortunately, I think the history societies within the buildings were one of these unfortunate people who suffered. There was no rationale behind it, it was just a slash and burn policy. And I know that in Cong Library and other things, there seems to be a more favourable approach now to local history, getting people interested in local history. They're asking for local photographs, for historical photographs, they're asking for volunteers. So perhaps that person's long gone and there's a more reasonable approach.
Yeah.
And if that's a footway in, then I think it's a perfect place. It's Bartley Library. There's lots of people visiting and it'll help the History Society develop and bring in different people. So yeah, I
Thank
think
you,
it's
Kevin.
a good idea.
Yeah, really positive comment. Susan and then Chris.
Can I move that we contact the local library, Lancashire County Council, to put this in place, and if not, it can come back to committee, see if we can find anything else.
Chris?
Yeah, I was only going to say in support of that. The only amendment I would suggest is a stronger word than ask. In the politest sense, this is a valuable asset to any town. Not every town has one.
Yeah.
It requires good atmospheric and environmental conditions, and the library seems ideal. I can't think of anywhere else apart from private properties that would be ideal. And if it sat there empty and doing nothing, and plus the fact that, as you say, whoever may have asserted it in the first place may no longer be with us, then yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think it would be unfair to say that it hasn't been used, but I think on occasion the creative writing group may have gone in there, but certainly what the local history society told me was that it was going to be used for meetings and all sorts of things. That doesn't appear to have happened, and there's still a lot of stuff in there which just seems to be sitting there doing nothing. So I think we can use a stronger word than ask, but we'll try and define it in the minutes. Okay, are we all in agreement? Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to go back on the agenda. If anybody wants to escape, you're very welcome. Look, they're all leaving now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
For the benefit of the camera, we do have two Hardy residents, one from Calvert, one from Van Alwick. and a reporter from the Craven Herald. So if you are watching this on YouTube, you can pick up the Craven Herald and read Leslie's report in future editions. And if you're listening or watching this YouTube video in 2050, you could probably go to the local society, which is based in the... right. Item 7 is the area committee budget, which my papers have gone out of whack. So, yeah, go on. It did. Well, thank you very much. Right, so, Mr. Walker's got his own personal sticker on this. I don't get a personal sticker on mine, do I?
It's up to date, Chair.
Is it out of date? Oh, I see, yes. Okay, we have a report. We've got bids, paragraphs 8 and 9. It says not being able to find paragraphs 8 and 9. So item 8 is Cemetery Road, Avey, a request for exactly the amount that we've got left in the budget for drainage improvements, which I think somebody must have been reading the papers. And we've got a request from Salford Funday for £850, but we have allocated all the funding for Salford. And I think the coffers are empty, Kevin. So we're going to have to either decline or defer that one. Any comments?
No, it's not till June anyway, so perhaps it could be deferred.
Okay. And I think as a policy, Salford need to consider what the priorities are. There isn't a huge amount of money there, you know. As I understand it, as Fund Day raises money that it then gives to organisations.
That's right, yes.
Yeah. So I'm hugely in support of that, but I can't see the point of the area committee giving money to another organisation for them then to pass it on to other organisations. I'd rather go direct to the organisations in the first place. Yeah. Okay. Cemetery Road, Avey. Susan, are we content to propose that?
I haven't, but yes.
Paragraph 8.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Amanda, you in support?
It's not on my thing, I haven't got that sheet, so I'm not sure exactly what.
Okay, well,
Just do a brief.
they want to do drainage improvements on Cemetery Road. They are necessary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is background there,
Okay. Right, it's moved and seconded then that we approve that one. We defer sort of the Fund Day application, yeah? And then the only other question is we've got, can't just remember how much it is, 400 and something,
Yeah.
paragraph 11 it is,
Yeah.
440. Now, the pothole repairs at Redcliffe Park, these were carried out by Barnsley Town Council in total at a cost of £3,000. It was Redcliffe Park and Victory Park, and the £440 wasn't used because the Town Council just got their hand in the pocket. However, there's a path towards the bottom entrance at the back of the park which is in need of repair. So I think the most sensible thing to do is to pass this over to the Town Council so that they've got a little bit more money to repair that path. Anybody happy to move that? Tom, Chris? Yeah. Yeah. You content, Tom? Yeah. Thank you very much. Those in favour then please show. Thank you very much. So 440 to the Town Council for repairs up at Redcliffe. Yeah. Anything further on the programme as set out? Questions on schemes that have been done or haven't been done or are being done? Right, can we note the rest of that then? Thank you very much. I'll give the personal copy of the report back to Mr. Walker. Item 8. Coates Lane, Skipton Road Junction. Councillor Tongue.
Thank you, Chair. I'm hugely disappointed in this, really. It's been a long-standing item on the committee. We've gone sort of back and forth. It's taken a while to come through. And for those who don't know about this, this is where, unfortunately, a pedestrian was struck and died on the road there. And we were seeking to see an improvement to the junction, to improve visibility for the cars, improve pedestrian crossing access, safety, etc. And LCC have basically said we can, what is it? Yeah, we can't reduce the road width by any significant amount. I mean, it is quite a wide road there. It is in an urban built-up area, but no, we can't reduce the width of the carriageway. And so any attempt by Pendle Council's engineers to improve the safety, increase the visibility is null and void, just because they've chosen an arbitrary carriageway width of 7.6 metres, which is way more than enough for 2 vehicles to pass. But obviously that's worth more to them than a human life. Yeah, I'm just gutted, really. I think from this, I mean, the engineers or whoever makes the policy on carriageway width at LCC, they've signed a death warrant of the next person who unfortunately doesn't make it across that road.
Thank you, Tom. There are 2 further aspects to this. I honestly cannot remember how many years ago we took this up with Lancashire County Council. We had a site visit where there was a very helpful manager from LCC attended and agreed that various things would be actioned. Now, it's probably not his direct sphere of responsibility, but there were 2 issues that were promised. First of all, in terms of making the junction safer, without the work that Tom is referring to in terms of carriageway realignment, there was a simple suggestion to put some hatchings in the centre of Coates Lane junction so as to move emerging vehicles away from the bend, so that if somebody came round the bend, there'd be another, sort of 3 metres, whatever distance, stopping distance, which could be critical. Nothing's happened with that. Now, we'll reflect on this in a moment because we'll be talking about resurfacing schemes. They are going to be surface dressing Coates Lane after they've done the patching in January. And the ideal time to put fresh markings would be after that surface dressing, so it won't cost them might cost them a little bit of paint, but it won't cost any more than redoing the existing lining as it stands. So I'd like to, first of all, adding to Tom's dismay, perhaps we register our disappointment that Lancashire County Council, after all these years, are blocking any effective action. Secondly, we request that the centreline hatchings are put down following the surface dressing later this year. And then the third thing, which is my personal bête noire, is that a little way down from the junction there is an interactive sign, one of 2, which were put there when the crossing was put in on Skipton Road where the playing fields are, and they were put there at the request of Lancashire County Council following a safety audit to make the pedestrian crossing as safe as it could be. The one as you come out of Barlick hasn't worked for several years. The lights flash up at the top and bottom, and then the bit that in the middle that says slow down, it's just blank. Again, we raised this with Lancashire County Council. They accepted that it wasn't working. It turned out it wasn't on their list of assets. They thought Pendle Council had put it in. It was actually County Council who put it in. I mean, the whole thing is a nonsense. They don't know what road signs they've got, and then when they do accept that it is their road sign, they turn around and say, well, we haven't got any money to repair it. You know, this is a county council with a budget of £1.5 billion, and they just sent out council tax bills of £1,678.59, as far as I know, to every bandee property in the county. So, you know, come on, Lancashire, get your figure out, get that sign in place, and you know, try and make that road a little bit safer. So, three things: express disappointment. I think we've got to accept that, you know, the dead hand of Lancashire County Council once more stops things from happening. But they could do the centreline hatching, and they should replace or repair the interactive road sign. Tom?
Chairman, I also think, with the strongest wording possible, we should ask LCC to make that stretch to the end of town a 20 mile per hour limit. That bend is too blind for 30 mile an hour. You can easily get caught out pulling out of that junction, or crossing as a pedestrian, coming out as a cyclist. It's, yeah, I know. It's not somewhere someone should be going 30 mile an hour, and I know people regularly exceed that as well. But I think if it was a 20, more people would respect that, and hopefully that would reduce the average speed and hopefully save a life.
Okay, what do people think about that? I laughed when Tom was speaking, because on the first day that he cycled to school for his cycling proficiency, he was witnessed pulling out of this junction, and a nephew of mine said, Tom nearly got killed.
Oh.
On this junction, yeah.
Yeah.
I did look. The car who came around the corner was not visible when I pulled out that junction. They slowed down, fair enough. But you know,
It's a regular occurrence, isn't it?
yeah. And I think it's not the only place in West Craven where we have roads that are dangerous. We should be having slower, traffic calmed traffic, and LCC are just playing the dead hand, not offering any improvements at all.
Okay. Right. Views on asking LCC. I mean, I think we're just wasting his breath and the ink on Joanne's pen, to be honest, but what do others think? Susan, it's your ward.
I think that we're always nagging the county council, and it seems to do no good at all. They just seem to ignore us.
Well,
How can we make this more effective?
okay. Well, we can put a further resolution in to say, you know, reduce the speed limit.
I would support that.
Yeah. Okay. It's moved and seconded. Any further comments? Right. So I think we've got a 4-part resolution now, Joanne. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That's carried. Right. Moving forward. Various highway issues raised at the January meeting. And I could spend a long time on this. Right. The first 4 paragraphs, it's it's just a sort of script that they give to everybody. You know, they talk about the target times. They've got a good record of meeting the target times for repairs, and yet, you know, we've got a whole host of 4-inch and deeper potholes that take weeks to resolve. Kevin's familiar with one on Moor Lane, Saltworth Drag, that we were pouring over one morning. How long did it take to get that one done? 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
And then it weren't done properly.
No. So, anyway, it's a set script and they just go out. But anyway, in terms of the specific roads that we were talking about, Angela, on your toes, Waterloo Road at Kelbrook.
Yes.
Right. So, Waterloo Road was resurfaced around about 12 years ago. I thought it was slightly longer, but residents have corrected me and said it was 2012. It was a full resurfacing scheme. The County Council, at long last, are going to do another full resurfacing scheme. I mean, the road is horrendous, just drop it to bits, big holes. I mean, I can get my phone out and show you loads of pictures of potholes, and Angela and Lizzie, who's here, would wax lyrical about them as well. That resurfacing scheme that they're going to carry out later this year is going to cost £86,000. £86,000. My question is, why are the County Council not going to the contractors or the suppliers of the material and demanding the money back for the resurfacing that was done only a dozen years ago? You know, it may well be it was the County Council that did their own resurfacing scheme, so, you know, it's them that's done the shoddy work. But it's the same on Moor Lane at Salterford, where that was redone and it's dropping to bits. We just talked about the 4-inch deep pothole that there was. It's completely crazy that the County Council are chucking money away, redoing roads that were done only so recently. Angela, do you want to?
I'd just like to be sure that if they do, when we do it for the £86,000, that it will last.
Yeah.
And how will we determine that?
Wow. Unfortunately, we know nothing. The County Council are all ruling and but I just can't believe.
It's costing residents money, you know, with tracking and all those kind of things. You know, I'm sure everybody's in the same boat. It's just a particularly bad road.
Yeah. But I mean, the scandal is that they're redoing it at such enormous cost, when there's all these other roads that are dropping to bits that they could spend £86,000 on, and, you know, at least you might get, well, you should get, you know, 50 years out of a road if it's done properly. 50 years, Tom, do you think?
Depends on the traffic, but
Yeah, okay. Right, so that's the first one. And then the resolution in January referred to the work that was being carried out in the Courts Lane area. And as I mentioned, Courts Lane is due to be surface dressed. I'll just let Lizzie finish talking to Leslie. So all the roads around Courts Lane, including the one where I live, Tom lives, were patched with, you know, proper big patches, and are going to be surface dressed later this year, come the summer. And the committee resolved to say, well, why have you done all those roads which weren't anywhere near as bad as other roads? And we got a list out of several roads all across West Craven, which we pointed out were in worse condition. Now, when they say worse condition, they might not be deep potholes, but the carriageway is breaking up. So Valley Road is a good example where the defects are less than the intervention level. So as far as the county council is concerned, there's not a problem. But for any people using that road, cyclists, motorists, you know, the road is wrecked. And it's not the only one. We said Valley Drive, which is in the same vicinity as all the roads that weren't in as bad a condition and that have been patched. Valley Drive and Meadow Way are worse, but they haven't touched them. Go figure. Colne Road in Barlick, Park Road in Barlick, what we have, Cemetery Road in Airby, Stony Bank Road, loads and loads and loads of different roads that are in worse condition. Arthur Street at Suff, all closed at Suff. So why are they spending a lot of money patching and surface dressing roads that are not in as bad a condition as lots of other roads? It just doesn't make sense. So I think our second response should be around that, Joanne, to say, you know, pull the other one or something like that. Come up with some wording. But it's just not good enough.
Do we get to see a strategic plan of road management?
Excuse me, am I going to choke? Lancashire County Council strategic plan. They have got an asset management plan, and the asset management plan distributes resources across the county in accordance with the need. And it appears that all the need is somewhere to the west of us. So I think you could rewrite it and say, well, anywhere but West Craven. There is some work being done this year, as I understand it, Waterloo Road at Felbrook. I'm optimistic Green End Avenue may get done in Airby. But, you know, beyond that, you know, the work around Coatslade, which, quite frankly, some bits needed to be done, but not significantly. I might be not being very charitable, but there's an asset management plan which you can have a look at, and it sets out a series of principles that we work to, but they keep promising more and more money, and you know, for the last 2 years there's been no capital spend on resurfacing in West Craven at all, none whatsoever. So it's bizarre. Susan, are you poised with your pen to come in?
Well, I'm just wondering what this on Stony Bank Road is. Is that where
sorry,
it
that's
floods,
drainage.
is that where it floods across the road? That they say there's no previous reports. Because I know it has been reported, and they keep doing something further down the road, but not actually going up to where this is being reported.
If Ian Tavendale, who lives at the top, at the bend, if he saw that, he'd have a dicky fit, because he has been banging on about this for a number of years, and certainly during the winter when we've had ice, it's just been a sheet of ice across the road. You know, roads like that, and you've got a bad bend, a sheet of ice. Well, is that a recipe for disaster or not?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, but you know, I'll just blow a gasket if we keep on looking at it. On the potholes, which, you know, the sporadic potholes, well, what a joke that is. They're repairing them with cold Big Mac for the most part. There's one just outside here that they did right. And there were contractors working for the county council, and I saw them doing it. I went across, had a chat to them, as I do, and I said, well, that's a decent repair, that. I said, where are you going next? Thinking about, you know, the dozen or so on my list in Barlick. And he got his computer out, he says, oh, tablet, he says, oh, we're off to Fence next. I said, Fence? I said, how many have you done in Barlick? He says, this one here. And I said, well, you've got 3 vehicles and 6, 7 people, and you're going from Barlett to Fence, and where's the next one? Oh, he says, Worstham, to the side of Burnley. So we're spending half a day travelling from Barlett to Fence to Worstham. Sorry. Just grinds me gears. Anybody else want to know? You sure?
I'm just conscious we've got quite a lot on the agenda.
Okay.
Yes.
You're quite right. I'm sorry, Tom. Right, so Joanne, we're going to write back to the County Council and show them the error of their ways. Okay, we can resolve this.
Yeah.
To write to the County Council and show them the error of their ways, and I'll put some flesh on that bone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Item 10, signal lamp inside. Talking about grinding my gears, Amanda. Really, I don't know. So, we asked for a meeting with Ely Town Council so we could discuss issues, and the Ely Town Council has just sort of, dismissed out of hand our request for a meeting. So the request was to talk about the green space on Bailey Street at Ely, which one of the residents who lives up there had asked if it could be used as a pump track. So I said, oh, well, I'll get it under discussion. And the developers who were using part of that land as a compound, and they stored it up, could be willing to realign the aggregate to make a pump track. You get like pumps for cyclists to go around, plant trees in between, have a pond in the middle. It has the support of some residents up there who think it's a wonderful idea. As part of that work, the developers are going to put in a French drain so as to intercept the surface water running off that land onto Wentcliffe Drive. And the response from Ely Town Council, they consider that any form of construction activity on this site, such as a playground, pump track or community building, would be detrimental to the ongoing issues around excess ground and surface water in the vicinity. If we'd have had a discussion and been articulated the reasons why that is not the case. In addition, public consultation with residents would likely be unfavourable to the idea of any play facility close to neighbouring houses, and so on and so on and so forth. The Town Council are not open to the potential for transferring the land to them in the near future, and consider the future use of the land as a matter for Pendle Council. The Town Council thanked the committee for the opportunity to comment on the direction to be taken. Well, the request was to actually have a meeting to discuss it. It's been dismissed out of hand, Amanda. I'm very sorry, but we talked about the dead hand of Lancashire County Council before. This is the dead hand of Ely Town Council, and if you can't find, I'm not blaming you, but if you can't find a couple of hours to discuss an issue, go into it into some depth, actually understand what the issues are, and appreciate that it's local residents who have asked for this, then I'm sorry, but we're really struggling. So I would suggest that we ask the Ely Town Council to reconsider, to actually agree to a meeting in order that we can go into these issues in greater depth. I've got Susan and then I'll bring you in. Susan?
Yes, I agree. I mean, they've had a discussion, but surely we need the discussion where we've got all the facts to put to them, not just dismissing it before we've actually discussed it.
Yeah.
And considered any of the options.
Amanda?
Right, well, we only have one request about the bike pump area and that, and we know from dealing with the areas both sides the pushback about putting anything that's built on there. So with it being a Pendle link, it's Pendle owned, we thought you could look into it more first than that, because honestly, anything, well, I've actually spoke to a lady as well last week, Rosie Fenwick from Newgrounds. She does greener spaces and she's looking at areas for Barnwell Creek and for Earby. Which area she can find.
Yeah, community gardens.
Yeah, so we suggested that area to look at because she's part of Pendle and Together Housing, is it? I'm not sure.
Newgrounds is part of Together Housing, but that's a separate.
So she's
project.
been on a site viewing of that area and the area behind Wentworth as well to look at the, the space and what could be done. And she's very interested in the idea of the kind of wetlandsy bit and that elliptical land and doing it as a nature space. There's a lot of ideas back into for like using it for the school as well. But she's got a built-up area of new houses.
Amanda.
Other new houses.
Amanda, as a committee, we would like to have a meeting with Earby Town Council.
That wasn't on Town Council. I just spoke to a lady from.
So, if we ask Earby Town Council for a meeting, would Earby Town Council agree to meet with us?
Well, I think they would, but I just think
they turned us down once.
It's just one person's request for a bike pump, and there wasn't much other details except it sounded like.
You never gave us the chance of discussing it.
I will pass it all on for the next meeting.
Okay.
Definitely, but I do think seeing more from Rosie as well would be very interesting because I haven't passed that on to our Town Council yet.
Yeah. Bear in mind, Amanda, Pendle Council has got no revenue funding to look after anything other than it's currently doing, and it's trying to pass over stuff to parish and town councils. So there is no way on earth that Pendle is going to take on something that's going to cost it more money in the future.
Well, it's exactly the same for you.
Well, no. Salterford is creating an allotment space. Kelbrook is chomping at the bit to do things and taking an increasing interest in running and paying for stuff in South Park, including the bit of South Park that's actually near me. And Barnsley Town Council is doing all this sort of stuff. So I'm not, having a go, but I just think that there needs to be at least some discussion rather than, knee-jerk reaction, no, we're not doing it. Susan?
On top of that, the wetlands sounds great, but you've got to look at who's going to use it, as well as who's going to maintain it, whereas we're always complaining about the youth that have nothing to do, so they're causing trouble. So surely something like that, pump track and things like that, would be somewhere for them to go instead of zooming up and down the railway track. And I've also seen them in Anne's Wood, they're looking for somewhere appropriate to use.
Thank you. Right. I'm just going to get more and more riled, so could I suggest that Susan's reference to things for young people leads us nicely on to master plans for Grenada, which are only sort of like 100-page documents a piece, so we'll get through these in no time. But in terms of the land off Bailey Street, if we just reiterate our request to Earby Town Council to actually have a meeting and discuss these issues, and I dare say that each side is busy digging the trenches and will be lobbing ammunition at each other, but I can only try. Master plans for Barnsley and Earby. Can I, for a start, just point out that I've written on the front of these that these are town centre master plans. They are not master plans for the whole townships, and I think that's an important issue. As you can gather from all the notes that I've made on these, there's a lot to discuss, and my first suggestion would be that we pick out the sort of headline issues, you know, the key things. If you're content, and Tom might be content to sort of delegate to me to sort of pull together any comments that are made after the meeting from members of the committee, and then we can submit those, you know, as a compendium, because literally if we start going through the issues that I've flagged up, we'll spend an hour on each one easily, and I just don't think it's practical for us to do so. Does that seem a way forward? So, you know, people make comments now, but, you know, the nitty-gritty detail, I can pull it all together, and, you know, if people let me have stuff afterwards, and Joanne, if you're content, you know, try and do it by the end of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So alphabetical order, but I'll do it first. Can I just make some overarching comments?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that I've written on the top of here is health centre. If you ask people in Barwick what issues of concern is, access to healthcare, GP surgery, access to GPs. In 100 and how many pages is it? Sorry, no, it's not 100. It's well, some of them are unnumbered. The 90 pages, not a mention of health, not a single reference. So I think there's a fundamental issue at the heart of this, which is that it's not cited on some of the big ticket items that are of concern to local residents. Another one is the sports centre, where currently a lot of discussion about the future of West Craven Sports Centre. No reference to it whatsoever. Maybe not something that came up during the 2 years that have been working on this, but a lack nevertheless. And then I've got a whole host of things about the text and some stuff that's already happened, errors like they call Craven Side Cavendish Home for the Elderly. You know, silly little mistakes, which I think, you know, we can go through those and take those out. Misspelling of Fernley Avenue. So instead of Fernley, all one word, it says Fernley Avenue. And then in both documents, they talk about rivers when we talk about becks, and you know, all that sort of stuff. So health, health and sports, I think are omissions that need to be in there. Thinking about Van Olswick, any further comments? Tom?
Yeah, I think the general substance is good. I mean, I attended some of the consultation sessions, and certainly it reflects the comments made there. I think it does lack, I think, a further reaching vision than I expected. You know, so a lot of the suggestions are stuff that we're already getting on with. Certainly the next item on the agenda, we've got the public realm works. I think there is some valid improvements in the ideas in the the draft master plan to compare to what we've got drawn up already, and I think we could certainly incorporate some of those into our plans for the current improvements we're going to make. I think that's pretty much what I'm thinking.
Okay. On pages 44 and 45, it sets out a vision, and again, this applies, I think, as much to the EB version as the Van Olswyk version. I'm not really happy with the text there. I think it's lacking vision, getting drift, and we could sort of make a better stab at that. Anything further on Van Olswyk?
Just going back to what you say about the health centre, or the non-health centre, it's looking like what I and I think many of us suspected was if they got their own way and gave us that little dinky one in what was the bank, that they'll all expect us to shut up and go away, because they'll say, right, you've got one now. And I think it goes without saying that they're quite wrong.
Yeah.
This is going to go on.
Yeah. Just moving forward, on pages 52, 53, there's a failure to identify a pedestrian and cycle route that could be used to get down Cockshot Bridge onto the canal, and integrate that into the centre of Barlick. And I think that's an issue that committee might want to endorse a different route, or suggest that there could be that route. Are we content with that? Yeah? Okay. I'm just flicking through very quickly. Item 59, branding and signage. I just think this is a stock response in these sort of documents, and it's all very well, but it's pretty meaningless. Sorry. There's a reference that Tom made to the pavement layouts and things like that, which we can pick up on the next item on the agenda. So there's some good suggestions there, but I don't think all of them will be necessarily embraced. In particular, in reference to Church Street, there's a suggestion to narrow the entrance down the butts. We've just got Philtrops investing multi-million pounds in their... Tom, could you just check if there's somebody outside? Pardon?
I think it's a cleaner.
Okay, that's fine then. So going down the boats, there is a difficulty in the very big articulated vehicles go down there, and given that they're just spending millions of pounds bringing the sort of global headquarters into Barlick, I don't think they'd appreciate getting the entrance blocked, but that's consultants for you, isn't it? Tom?
It is worth noting they had some traffic consultants on this, so it might be they've considered that, and the proposed solution does accommodate, so I think it's just worth checking.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll make comments, and the final draft or whatever it is, I'll put with something or nothing or whatever. It suggests that EV charging points are provided at the Raynor Road car park, whereas we know that the EV charging companies want them to be next to public conveniences, because it's a pit stop in more ways than one. So I think they've got that wrong. Needs to be Welsh Road. There's a lot of references to greening back streets, which there's a phrase in here which says if residents are interested, and I think, you know, residents need to be asked. You know, nothing can be imposed on people. And then just a detail really on the town green. They're suggesting an apothecary garden in the area where kids play football, and I think that's going to go down a bomb, both with the gardeners who might or might not build an apothecary garden and the kids who will kick footballs all over it. So, you know, that's an issue. In terms of opportunity sites, I've put big crosses through some of the stuff which is complete nonsense. You know, they're suggesting building here and there and everywhere, including the former Butts Clinic site, which I think Philtrox are the natural people to take that, because they do want to consolidate the global operation here in Blarley. And I think, you know, that ought to be facilitated rather than trying to ban some houses next to them and make it more difficult for them. And I think that's the, you know, sort of like top line comments, but there's a lot of detail that we need to sort out. Any further on that? Any proposal that, yes, we do sort of accommodate those concerns in our response?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Can we go on to Ely? Same process. Pick up the sort of like top issues, and then Amanda, if there are any further things, Susan, you know, if you want to chip in, yeah? An annoying, sorry, this isn't a headline thing, but there's an annoying thing on page 71 which illustrates how they've just done like cut and paste jobs between towns, and it's about EV charging points. Paragraph 5.66 says, in Colne, we recommend that these... Well, come on, you know, these consultants who are being paid for by the county council are costing scores of thousands of pounds. Well, if they're going to come out with like that, I'm sorry, but, you know, I'm paying them in washers. An omission on the strategic context, it should include Pennine Way, because it talks about the Pennine Bridle Way. It doesn't talk about the Pennine Way walking route. There's a mistake on page 19 where Amanda, Susan, you might be able to correct me on this one, but it's got reference, it says Long Inn redeveloped as part of planned housing development. Where is Long Inn in Ely? I don't think it exists.
I don't think there's a Long Inn.
I think it's an Ura.
There's a Long Inn.
There's Long Inn down here in Barley.
But
not in Ely, no. So, you know, another mistake that...
I saw that, but I forgot to put the star again.
Yeah.
Longing for a proofreader.
Sorry, Chris?
I think they have a longing for a proofreader, don't they?
And then in the digital infrastructure, I think one of the big issues in Ely is inadequate 5G, or even 4G, to be honest. But, you know, the mobile signals are poor and could be improved.
Yeah. Yes, you've got to move about to find signals sometimes.
Right.
Which I've only given up with that for years ago.
I think a fundamental issue is, or two really, and we'll pick up the first one. Treatment of Victoria Road, which I quite like the idea of limiting access or egress so that the three-way junction is made better. And linked to that is an issue around the possibility of developing an event space, which the suggestion in here is to use part of the what they call the Albert Road car park. I call it Boot Street car park, but either way. And I mean, I think if on Victoria Road, if during an event on, say, a Saturday or a weekend, you could actually have the event on Victoria Road rather than have it, you know, around the way, down the back street. But, you know, not sort of staking that. You know, if people come out and say, well, you know, Albert Street car park is fine, well, go on then. It doesn't work really well. I've tried it, I've done it. And then the other thing that I wanted to pick up particularly was it really does need the New Road garage site sorting out, and I think that ought to be one of the top ambitions to actually do something with it. I've been trying for 30 years and well, we got it tidied up once over, but you know, it's still dropping to bits and still an eyesore, and I think it's a blight in the centre of Earby, so if we can manage to get something done about that, that would be good. Susan, further comments?
I was looking at this on page 67. Are they planning to take the town council buildings away from the town council?
That's the one I was going to comment. Really knocking it all down. So,
I mean, it's interesting, but
Well,
I haven't seen this coming out of the public consultation anyway.
it wasn't.
no. I mean, the town council will comment appropriately.
We have.
Yeah. The sorry, you just draw my attention back to that page. I've just written here wrong place. It's suggesting a bus lay-by up by the parish rooms, and I think the sensible place, if you're going to actually have people getting on and off the bus on Victoria Road, will be further back, down near Prince and King, and then the buses could actually exit on Albion Road, and if you wanted to use a bus station for events or whatever, that makes sense. But if you bring the buses right up to beyond Albion Road, you can't then get them out without going over School Lane, which is horrendous. I think the White Lady used to do that.
They won't be allowed over the bridge, will they?
I don't know, but anyway.
They're using double-decker buses.
We can obviate that by shunting it down Victoria Road. Any further comments, Amanda?
Well, mine was main around that area, and I've noticed, I don't even know what call that piece of land, up from Rushton Avenue Playgrounds, that big piece
Back of
land.
Wencliffe
Yeah,
Drive?
that one, that's down in pink as possible development. I thought that's not going to go down well.
I thought that had been dropped.
It's still on there.
Okay, well, put my hand up. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't think it's a good idea either.
Yeah.
Tom?
Yeah, just the Victoria Road junction change to the one way at the bottom there. I think that's quite a positive suggestion, and I think there's certainly elements of that we could incorporate again into the current public realm improvement works. and I just wonder, is that something we should progress to looking at in the medium term, really?
Okay. Yeah.
As part of the money we've got from Levelling Up Fund, I think the opportunities to create an event space there, along with the change in the traffic flows, would be a positive improvement to the high street in Avon.
Yeah. Okay. Susan, do you want to come back in?
I was just thinking of your comment about using what I also call the street car park, is that if there was more car parking on Victoria Road here, that wouldn't be a bad place to hold the event, given that there's room for the vendors to park up along Diagonal. Although that's EV charging now, so that would...
Yeah.
Although
Okay.
it says EV chairing here, but instead of charging. yeah, there's all
pick that one
sorts.
up,
There's
sorry.
lots of them, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So we picked out some of the issues. My suggestion is that we incorporate those into comments. That if people want to submit any further comments to me, you know, within the next day or so, that I'll pull it all together and let Joanne have it forward. Yeah, is that okay? So we're approving those comments, delegating authority to me to stick more in, and corrections and spelling mistakes and all that sort of stuff. References to Bonalds we can either being in Lancashire, when of course it's in they're both in Yorkshire, that sort of stuff. Okay. Is that all right with the committee? John?
I think just with the contingency that it's circulated to us before final sent back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Tomwick does not trust me.
No, I think you're a bit too harsh in some respects on this
Okay,
one. Yeah.
all right then. Okay, so I pulled it together. It's circulated around committee members. Subject to no objections, we put them in as our comments. Yeah? Good.
I think they'll appear as an annex to the minute.
Yeah, go on then. Yeah. Well, I'll accept an annex.
Sorry, an appendix.
All right. Okay. Item 12, public realm work in Bonalds funded from UK shared poverty fund. I put this on the agenda. I'm hoping that we've made some progress, but as committee members will know, we expected to be doing work before the end of this financial year, funded from UK SPF, and there has been an almighty hiccup with Lancashire County Council, who rather than allowing Pendle Council to use the contractors that have previously done work on paving and stuff like that, Lancashire County Council were insisting that something called sector-specific contractors be used, and these sector-specific contractors, national bodies that are more used to building motorways than doing a £50,000 pavement job in Avey or Barwick or wherever, and effectively prevented Pendle Council from doing the work, because, you know, if you can get anybody to do it, they were probably going to charge you twice as much as what existing contracts are. There was a meeting last Monday between the County Council and people from Pendle Council, and the County Council appear to be relenting and allowing Pendle Council to use contractors that have appropriate quality assurance credentials. So I was expecting that, you know, we were going to have to sort of campaign strongly to get LCC to relent. I'm hopeful, fingers crossed, touch wood, that that may not be the case. So we've got the schemes in front of us to comment on, and hopefully we'll be able to progress these towards going out to tender, getting some prices and implementing these in the next few months. Can I start with Victoria Road at Earby, which the funding that we've got available, I think, may do a little bit more than what we've currently got. But essentially the scheme in Earby is to relay the flags on one side of Victoria Road in front of the shops from one end to the other, to provide some vehicle crossovers, pedestrian crossing points over the street ends that intersect with Victoria Road, and that is about it. Now, depending on what the tender prices come back in, it may be that is all that can be afforded. But I think there are ideas and suggestions within the master plans, the town centre master plans, that we should incorporate within this work. So if there's ideas in those that we can, you know, actually implement as part of the UK SPF work, we should get on with it. So I mentioned that as a principle, which also applies to Barley, but the Victoria Road one, I think, is the simplest one to look at in that respect. So, Tom, are you able just to sort of run over what could be incorporated?
Yeah, so if you've got the master plan, town centre master plan in front of you, page 65 is the part where it looks at Victoria Road. And the suggestions in it are primarily formalising the parking. So currently it's only painted strips. And what they call formalising parking is where you build out the pavement to cover the areas where you shouldn't have cars parking, and the swept radius of cars pulling out can't go there because of the parked cars. So I mean, if you look, maybe it's not the best example. On the Van Olswick one, it's a lot clearer. They don't have the trees on top. Page 67. If you look at the bottom of Frank Street next to the square on page 67 of the Van Olswick plan, you can see there the formalised parking, it brings out the curb to where the front bonnet of the car park there would be. And that basically gives a bit of extra room on the pavement, gives you opportunity to place like tree planters or a bench, some dwell space for pedestrians on the street there, and generally just improve the look and feel of the street. So I mean, my suggestion would be to try and incorporate those formalisations if we can. For example, junction of Edward Street, there should be some clear space either side of that junction for cars pulling out. So the white lining there will be set back from that junction. But what will happen is, because there's no physical curb to stop people, they'll overrun those white lines. They'll block the junction off to make it tighter to get in and out of. And what the suggestion is you bring that out to your white line, you turn in radius.
Okay. I can see people's eyes glazing over. In terms of using the Edward Street junction as an example, at the moment you can't see the traffic whizzing down, so you sort of pull out, and then when you get to be able to see, your bonnet's already sort of stuck out and the traffic's whizzing past you in front of you. So as I understand it, is to create a little bit of a sight line and to have a radius that, you know, sort of you can get around easily.
I think in America they call them sunlight strips.
Thank you.
But
We don't want any Americanisms.
Gosh.
Okay. Amanda, would you generally be supportive of that sort of approach? Putting you on the spot?
Well, we had for a meeting before to discuss all the stuff down the way from the, what's it, with the whole town council with you. Well, we didn't get one, so we have got quite a few questions because we've had them briefly through the plans but not at a meeting. So we've been
So we're talking-
questions to send you about the ideas, and then
Okay.
obviously we've not thought of any extras
Right.
that we think have added on, so
Okay.
we haven't discussed that yet.
All right. Susan?
I think it sounds a good idea because it's quite,
Okay.
it's really bad pulling out from Edward Street.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now that you've only got one, now that the end's going to be blocked up eventually, next to the bend,
Perhaps, possibly, if Lancashire County Council agree.
if they agree,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
There's only going to be that one.
Okay, so in terms of Victoria Road to Davy, can I suggest that in principle committee resolves that elements of the suggestions in the master plan should be incorporated in the scheme, that we seek the views of AB Town Council on those proposals, and that otherwise we accept that this is the basis of the work that would be carried out, and given the availability of further resources, I think a further resolution from us would be to expand the scheme to incorporate other aspects of high priority work previously identified or identified within the town centre master planning process.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Right. Can we, I'll keep looking over here to see if anybody wants to come in. Tom, can we move on to Barlick?
yeah,
So there are several streets. Essentially, these are pavement improvement projects. The one thing that we want to incorporate, if we can, is creating a performance area slash little bit of a storage space for the town council at the back of the town square. So I think, just put that in as the first line of any resolution, but all the details are still to be determined and hammered out. Tom?
yeah. So on the first plan,
Back of the town square?
back of the town square, I think that all of that back section is fine. I think the plan's good there. The only thing I would add is at the pet shop corner on the end of, I think, do they call that street Albert Square?
Well, the back street, the side street, doesn't really have a name.
Yeah.
You mean on Frank Street?
Yeah, on Frank Street, at that new pedestrian crossover. Just conscious of vehicles pulling out of there, again, parking over the white lines on that junction. And I think we should incorporate the build-outs again, like I was saying for Victoria Road, the one shown in the master plan idea.
Yeah.
And the same just outside House of Flowers. We've got the issue there with the pavement being quite steep to allow the drop curb.
Yeah.
If you did that build out, you wouldn't lose any of the turning space for traffic going around that corner. What it does mean is the pavement can be level across, and your fall to get your drop curve is incorporated into the build out.
Yeah. And hopefully it would prevent people parking over the dropped curb and preventing wheelchair users from getting
double
on there.
benefit, yeah.
Okay. Next.
Next.
Yeah.
So the next page we've got the widening of the pedestrian ginnel next to the entrance to the Raynor Centre,
Over there.
just behind us here. I think we need to incorporate a drop curb
Yeah.
just next to that,
Yeah.
so that you don't need to go the entire length of the pavement.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't think we were paving the EV charging section of the pavement on there
Well.
with the nice stuff. I thought
Yeah.
we were just relaying, but
Well, if we can afford to do
if we can afford to
let's
do
do
it,
it.
I think let's do it.
So this is Hugh's looking querulous. This is where the EV charging points are on Ellis Street. There's that concrete paving which Lancashire County Council, got big trip hazards on. So, we're getting some money to do Lancashire County Council's job because they're failing so badly.
Yeah. But I think if we're running short of money, I think this could be on the more priority list.
Okay. Yeah.
We can just relay what's there. Or
Yeah. Next.
We've got Newtown. I think this is good. Again, that top, on the bottom of the drawing, just opposite that new green hash section, I think again we could do a build out opposite to that. This is in front of where Dewhurst used to be. I don't know what shop it is now.
Leon, you mean?
Leon, yeah.
It's Crimson Witchcraft.
The Witchcrafts, yeah. Again, a build out there.
Not Crimson Witchcrafts.
It is a
What's Gary
witchcraft
called?
shop.
It's Gary Brennan.
Yeah, it sells
Yeah.
crystals and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So the part of the aim there is if any HGVs inadvertently end up on that corner,
there won't
that
be
it
a
would
car
make it,
stupidly placed.
there won't be a car parked right on the corner blocking them. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was also, we were questioning the shared space, raising the surface at the bottom of Newtown.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's not in the drawings anymore. Has that been parked?
And I think it's awaiting Lancashire County Council seal of approval or not, as the case may be.
Yeah, question mark if that doesn't go ahead with this scheme, could we incorporate a crossing, a raised crossing, like those side street ones across the bottom of Newtown, just at the entrance to Albert Road there.
Yeah.
And then, we've got, this is Raynor Road after that, junction with Newtown. That's all good. Just again on the left-hand side there, the bump outs to stop silly parking.
Sorry, John, which one are we on?
We're on plan
Raynor Road.
Raynor Road, yeah.
Okay.
Can't remember what that street's called.
You mean York Street?
Is it York Street?
Yeah.
Yeah. A bump out just on that one again. I'd have thought.
Bump out. Okay. Next.
That's
Is
it.
there any next?
There's no next.
No, there isn't. Okay. Right. Can I just check with other committee members? Are you content with that? Yeah? Right. Any other comments?
Can I just ask,
No.
does
Angela.
anything in there conflict with anything in the town centre plans? In such as if you did
Well,
and they were accepted, would it have to be redone
right.
or undone?
Well, within the town centre master plans, there are several suggestions to change work that has already been done, and I think it would be our intention, even if those suggestions are desirable, to leave them, until we're all dead and buried, or there's a need to do further work, rather than ripping up anything that we put down, and sort of, I think that would be a disgraceful use of
Yeah.
public money, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's just one location which Tom mentioned where there's outside the House of Flowers, there's a rather nasty dip to get the I think what Tom's suggesting is that we'd want to look at that again because we're not happy that it's satisfactory. But the rest of them, you know, if there are further improvements suggested in the master plan, we'd leave that to the end and go and do elsewhere, and then, you know, maybe come back to it in 15 years' time or whenever. Yeah? Is that okay? Right, so with the proviso at the beginning about the event space, performance area at the back of the square, we're agreeing in principle to all this, subject to incorporating some of the suggestions from the town centre master plans in both Evie and Donaldswick. Yeah? Good. Thank you very much. Item 13, environmental blight. Mr Walker's report. And we've got two sites, West Close Road on Lorry Park. The County Council has been approached to see if they've got a fence at the edge of the surfaced area. It is regularly getting flighted. I think something might have appeared there today. It's certainly, you know, sort of weekly basis, if not more than once a week. So, Mr Walker, have we got any response from them?
I'm not aware of any response regarding the fence line.
Okay. And Clayton Street, Van Olswick, and there's some money which is paying for a new fence, and it says the works will be done before the end of the financial year. I think residents in that area will be highly delighted. Yeah? Can we note that? Yeah? Good. The remaining items for discussion, and recurring water supply failures and power cuts affecting extensive areas of Bonaldswick due to the water pumping station on Carfall Road repeatedly breaking down. I did write an email which I copied several committee members in on this morning. Really, I blew my gasket and had a rant, and that was at 7 o'clock this morning. I haven't calmed down since. But Yorkshire Water effectively are, they have treated parts of Bonaldswick as, akin to a third world country. People have been without water on many, many occasions. I think Councillor Church is one of the affected residents.
Yes.
A situation where people cannot flush the toilets, can't clean the teeth in the morning, can't have a shower, babies going unbathed, and all because Yorkshire Water can't sort the pumping station out over a period of 2 months, and dismally failing to actually address these issues. Part of the problem is Northern Power Grid electric supplies going off to the pumping station, and then Yorkshire Water's emergency generators don't kick in to keep the pumps going, and on top of that, the pumping station has an audible alarm, so residents have been subjected to these high-pitched beep, 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 like that for 72 hours. And people haven't been able to sleep. It's like, sort of one of these torture chambers. So I let other people come in because it's just got me so wound up. I can't believe it. Chris?
I'm almost tempted to say I wish we could hear the audible alarm, because there's absolutely no warning of it going. The first you hear that it's going is when the pressure starts to drop and you rush and fill all your pans because you know it's about to go, and that's it. 10 minutes, something like that. I don't know whether there is any kind of warning they could issue, whether it was on social media or texts or whatever. But with a little bit of warning, it would be tolerable.
Okay.
For all the reasons that you gave, Chairman.
Yeah.
You know, bathing babies, flushing loo, this sort of thing. So that is the main nub of the problem, really. That we get 10 minutes warning if you're lucky.
Councillor Tom Whitt.
Yeah, I just think it's an all-round bad situation. I mean, obviously, I think Yorkshire Water should probably get some like spare emergency generators in, if that's at all possible. Yeah, just strongest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. They actually had a repair truck came on Friday, and you know we were running flag up and thinking, oh, they've solved it, and then Monday morning, beep beep beep, and that went on for another few hours. So you know clearly it's not right yet. I'm really frustrated because I've literally spent hours talking to Yorkshire Water. I know the councillors have been on the case as well, and they're not responding, they're not dealing with it. So I think there's two parts to this resolution. I'm not going to turn my hand around, but that's what I feel like. Two parts to this resolution. First part is demanding that Yorkshire Water resolve this issue, compensate the affected residents, put things in hand to provide bottled water when required, and I think picking up the point Chris made, also getting them to do a letter drop to everybody apologising for the service failure, advising how people can go onto the text system, because you can get texted, and obviously as part of that, advising how people can claim compensation, so you can get half your water bill back because of these failures. So I mean there's hundreds of residents, thousands of residents, hundreds of houses that are affected, so you know it's worth having and hit them in the pocket because it's the only thing that is going to affect them. The second bit I think is Northern Power Grid, because what's actually causing the pumps to fail is the lack of power, and some of the residents in the immediate vicinity of the pumping station not only lose water but they lose their electric as well, and there's businesses there, Elysian Spa, who you know all of a sudden they've got customers and they can't do it, so you know businesses losing money hand over fist. So it is really a disgraceful situation. So I think at the very least we want a dialogue with both companies to discuss the matter. I would prefer having senior managers attend our next meeting of this area committee, where we can call them to account for the miserable way in which they've treated people. So perhaps we put that on as well. Anything further? No? Thank you very much. Item D, to consider the post office provision in Balnolswick in light of the business and building being put up for sale and the sign appearing on the building recently. The business has been up for sale for a while, and in January the owner of the property, but not the operator of the post office, advised that there would be a sign going up about it. in part, this is because of the advent of the banking hub, although I understand that post offices that lose a certain amount of business do get compensated for any loss of trade that they suffer. So the situation perhaps isn't as bad as they thought. But there is the prospect for the current post office provision not to be there, and I don't want to oversell that. I think that they do want to sell it as a going concern. So there's a possibility there that we just want to guard against. So suggestion would be to seek a meeting with Mr. Inyat, who's the property owner, and his brother, who is the postmaster, and perhaps include the manager of the banking hub, who's also a postmaster elsewhere, so that we could sort of just find a way forward.
Good idea.
Yeah? Agreed?
Yeah.
Thank you. Item E, Union Royal Global, they installed a thermal oxidizer before COVID, which is working very well. Environmental health officers have done, I think it's an annual check, and that's working great. We don't have any people reporting fume problems. However, one of the jobs that they were going to do was take down the redundant stack, the big metal chimney that sticks up into the sky, which isn't used now. But what we're saying is that trading conditions aren't as strong as they were before COVID, and they don't have the wherewithal to remove that at the moment. So they've got no current plans to take it down. And I think, given that the visit has been very recent, it's probably appropriate for us to note that and revisit it following the next annual inspection.
Yes.
Is that okay? Yeah. Item F, Euravia. This is complaints of odours and affecting different areas depending on the way that the wind travels. Leslie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're nearly there. So, Angela, do you want to comment on this one?
I don't really know what to say, to be honest. I live very near Euravia and it doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother you?
I haven't had any direct complaints for any other residents about it. Lizzie might have something to say. You live closer, don't you?
Okay, I'll bring Lizzie Kativ in, who's also a parish councillor in Talbot and Suf.
I live at the back of Euravia, and it's when they're running the whatever it is that
Test
source it, it's not every day. It is quite noisy, and you do smell the fumes. You do smell aviation fuel, and I do believe a lot of the farms on the other side, as it carries, it depends on the way the wind is going that day, whether we smell it. If it's going the other way, we don't smell it, but the other farms high up do. But I don't know what the answer is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've had previous discussions with Euravia, and there was an option to put in the sort of thermal oxidisation process that Uniroyal Global have used. That is quite expensive, and as a different option, they chose to increase the height and make the stacks so that the theory is that it disperses further away, but unfortunately if the climatic conditions are such the fumes come down to the ground, it is quite noticeable.
Yeah,
And I mean, I certainly have notice it, you know, even just in passing, and I know residents have contacted me about the fumes. So what I'd suggest is that we seek a meeting with Euravia. We'll go around the houses probably again, because the last time we did, they said, well, can you give us chapter and verse when were the problems and who's complaining and this and that and other. But, you know, I just hope that they would agree to meet and, you know, discuss it rather than us gathering all the evidence and all that sort of stuff. So, as a first move, if we could seek a meeting with them. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, any further comments? No? Right. Agreed. Thank you, Hugh. Item 15, outstanding items. Youth provision update. I have nothing. I don't know whether anybody else has. I know Tim Horsley has been busy beavering away, but not really getting very far. And the last one, at the previous meeting, we did seek a meeting with ICB. And Joanne, do you want to report what the response is?
So they're going to provide a written report probably to the next meeting, but they said they prefer to provide that, and then if you've still got questions, then they'll agree to me.
Okay. Well, without labouring the point at the moment, we are hearing some quite awful horror stories, I mean, let's see what they've got to say, but, you know, some of the things I've heard, you know, really the ICB, Integrated Care Board, ought to be getting a grip. So, say no more on that. We okay with that? Yeah? Item 16 is exclusion of press and public. Lizzie, we're going to have to eject you from the meeting, I'm afraid. Could we just take a vote on it? Those in favour? Yeah, you're out. We're not going to be long. Lizzie?